Hola guys, and welcome back. I'm Diego, and we're playing Minecraft, and again, it's just me. I'm sorry, we have no friends today. Or rather, this morning. It's now 2:20 a.m. because I chose not to go to bed tonight. Uh, well, I will be going to bed at some point, but I don't have anything going on for the rest of the week, so I figured, hey, why not? Let's stay up and play some games. So right now, the last thing we did here is we finished off our induction smelter from thermal expansion, or TE, as we like to say with our short forms here. Now I'm currently in the process of just processing some spare ore. I think that's all I need. Now as you can see here, I have some nether brick and some nether quartz. Now that's actually because over the course of the time between when we finished that and when we continued, I actually made a point of going and getting some obsidian to make ourselves a nether portal. Now I will make a quick trip here just to show you guys what we have going on, just to prove this is in fact legitimate. But in here, and I don't really know why it spawned with us. I think that's a beautiful obsidian look, but I don't really know why that spawned there. We spawned right next to some glowstone, which is why I've got some glowstone here. And right over here where this big hole is actually, oh, there's some cobalt as well. I don't think I can get that though. Can I? No, I can't. Yeah, so this was all nether quartz, and I figured we need that for applied energistics, so we might as well grab it. So we have ourselves some nether quartz, we have some nether brick, and we have some glowstone. So we've got enough stuff to move on to another couple things inside of thermal expansion itself. I'm not going to take a look at applied energistics today, I don't think, just because that is a little bit more in-depth and requires a bit more in terms of crafting and things like that. Now, I did just see a skeleton with a fairly interesting looking hat. Oh look, it's a sombrero. And I'm not entirely sure, but every time I get that pop-up for the hats, my GUI dies. That's since I added one of the other two mods. So I'm not entirely sure why that happens, but it does. Now, right now, I'm trying to figure out which... Actually, I can't do it right now because I'm not a human. Let's turn back into a human. Apparently, I have the straw hat on. Let's see what... So, tentacle, that's kind of cool. We have straw hat. We have direwolf, we have Australian minecart, which is just upside down, with the Mark's glasses, the one-man army, and the Pahi hat, however you want to say it. Personally, I kind of like this one, but honestly, I'm just going to take the hat off, because I'm not particularly worried about a hat. Hat's a hat. I'm not really... There we go. Alright, so I'm not really worried about hats here. I do... However, I want to make myself some extra chests. So we want to do 1, 2, 3. For the purpose of doing this and extending our good friend the chests outwards so that we have a little bit more space in each of these. So we're going to run over here, and actually I think we may switch back to our little flying buddy here. Actually, hold on just a moment. There we go. Just had to fix some frame rate issues there. I have a couple programs that typically run in the background that I leave open that honestly are not very good for my frame rate. So I can run usually about 30 to 50 frames while recording like this, unless I'm in a big open area, in which case it might dip to about 20. Worst case scenario, about 12 to 15, but usually it's just for about a second or so. However, when I'm not, what I found is I'm running anywhere from about 50 to 120, which is actually not quite normal. I'm not entirely sure what exactly changed, but my optimal recording setup apparently gets considerably better frame rate than my general setup, which is not bad. I actually don't mind that. It's just frustrating that my normal setup doesn't get that. But anyways, so we have our systems here without much further ado, the reason that we wanted to get nether brick, well, nether rack, which we turned into nether brick just by smelting it. As you can see here, you just smelt it down. The reason we wanted that is because we actually want to make ourselves our induction. No, we have the induction smelter already. We want to make the magma crucible. This is something that will actually melt redstone into, I guess they call it destabilized redstone now or something like that. But in order to do that, we first need nether brick. And since we can make ourselves nether brick using nether bricks, that's exactly what we're going to do. The other thing that we need here, and this is a little bit more in-depth, actually I'm first going to make ourselves the machine block and the rest of it. I'm also going to switch back to being a bat just because I prefer being able to fly around. It's a little bit faster and a little bit more convenient for me. I need my glass back. Alright, so we're going to put our glass in, put our gold in, and we're going to put our iron in. And we want a redstone reception, which is one of those. So we can do that. Now, the mod that I'm using here to fill in the recipes is NEI, or not enough items. It gives you the option, when you look at a recipe, to, well, if you're in a crafting bench, mind you, if you press R on something, it will show you the recipe, and if you click on the little question mark, it will fill it in. Now, in certain cases, like, for example, the redstone reception coil, if I press R and then I shift-click it, it will actually fill it in automatically to the maximum number that you can, which is actually really cool, I must say. It means that you can just fill it in, make one, get out, puts everything away, so on and so forth. Fairly useful, I must say. Okay, so the next thing that we need here is actually a little bit more complex. Like I said, the leadstone energy cell frame. Now, it's not overly complicated. We just need lead ingots, which are made using lead ore, of course. So that's not really a big deal. We also need a block of redstone and some glass. So we're just going to throw ourselves together a block of redstone. And we're going to also need to get ourselves 1, 2, 3, 4. Or actually, we only need 2 because we have a pulverizer here. This will give us twice what we need. I'm going to dump some of the extra power into this thing. Now, something that you may not be familiar with if you haven't used this mod a whole lot, the more power it has at its disposal, the faster it will run. Just by default, that's how this works. So the more power they are, if you look in here, you can see power usage as opposed to maximum power. Now, typically, the less power there is in here, it will actually start to use less, trying to conserve the power. It actually smelts things slower as it uses less power, so it doesn't necessarily conserve it, it just makes it feel like it lasts longer. Essentially, it still smelts the same number of materials, it just takes more time. So the idea is to keep it as full as possible. But since we've got all of that, I really need to make myself a crafting table in there, but I'm not too worried about it at this point. We're going to do that, and there we go. So now let's dig up our magma crucible, and we're going to make ourselves one. So now that we have one of these, I'm going to throw this down just quickly here so we can take a look at it. Now this holds a lot more power, 400,000. That's considerably more, actually. And now one other thing that I want to tell you about with thermal expansion is the crescent hammer. It's just 3 iron and 1 piece of tin. This is something that you will want in order to move machines. If you're trying to move a machine like this, it takes a considerable amount of time to break it, or you can just grab this, shift right click, and it's gone. Although it does kind of mess with this block. It does kind of, oops. They do kind of screw with this because they're not technically being broken normally. It doesn't repair it, or it doesn't change the shape back the way it normally would. But that's okay. I'm not overly concerned about that. Now, normally, I wouldn't want to do this, but just because I don't think there's a whole lot else that we needed other than the fluid transposer, which I'm not sure uses. I do believe it does use power. So you know what we're going to do instead is we're going to make ourselves another steam dynamo, just because I feel that might be a little bit more efficient if we do it that way. So let's dig up the recipe we need here. We need a transmission coil, which is just silver, so that's not a big deal. And I think we also need a piston. So let's grab that. We will, rather before we mess around with the piston, we're just going to make ourselves this thing, our redstone transmission coil, and I'm going to double check on that piston. No, we don't need a piston. I'm really glad I didn't make one. That would have been a little bit of a waste, I must say. All right. I was close. There we go. All right, so we're going to bring this over here. Now again, these do require water. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to plop down, and just because this will make it look kind of pretty, I'm going to plop that down right there. Fills in the water hole. It allows me to put it down here, so I can still access everything that I need to, but I can actually power my magma crucible without any issues. And as well, I actually need to now, as you can see, it actually isn't currently getting any water, and that's a problem. The reason is the front is not actually an output. Now you can actually rotate this just by right-clicking on it, I think. Is that correct? Apparently it doesn't want to rotate, so we're going to do this differently. We're just going to pick it up, and we're going to put it down like so. Alright, so it'll fill up fine just like that. And we're going to make sure that it is still, well, rather what we're going to do is we're just going to turn it on, make sure it has all outputs, or inputs rather, to the orange box on all sides. That way it's going to input and output to both engines whenever needed. And this has full water, so we are good to go. Now we're going to throw some... that, I think, will be enough for now. That should give us plenty of power in our magma crucible here. And we're actually going to throw in a bunch of redstone. As you can see, this actually shows that it is smelting right now. Now the blue is inputs for this, and the orange is output. So we want to make sure... Can we actually turn this? I'm not entirely sure why I can't turn them. Oh, there we go. Alright, so it's not facing this way, which is fine. It still gets power, but allows us to output. That's not quite what we want. I don't have any pipes yet. Let's see, we need a liquid fluiduct, which isn't a big deal. Fluiduct. Okay, so we just need hardened glass in order to make them, so that's fairly easy, thank goodness. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to work on making the next thing that we need while this powers up here. And actually, I'm going to throw the redstone in just so it'll get on it. Destabilized redstone. So each one is 1/10 of a bucket. It can hold about 10 full buckets. So we're actually going to get about 4 buckets worth. I think that's more than enough. If it's not, then we have a problem. But I have more than enough redstone elsewhere. So the next thing that we want to make here is the, where is it? The fluid transposer. Fairly cheap, as you can see. Basically what this does is it allows you to take liquids and put them into either buckets or etc., which doesn't sound all that useful. However,
One of its other important uses is something that, or basically it will take the destabilized redstone that we're making right now, and it can actually put that into the cell, for example, the leadstone energy cell that we made before. Yeah, leadstone energy cell frame. You can put the redstone into that frame, turns it into a cell, and then you can store actual RF energy or redstone flux in it. And then rather than doing it this kind of hodgepodge method with the dynamos running, you can actually use them to power a cell, store the cell, and then it will actually directly put the power into the cells and then into the machines, which is considerably more efficient. Your engines don't waste power, waste steam. Uh, so yeah, it's considerably better to do it the other way. But for now, we're just going to deal with it like this. As you can see, we're still fairly good on this aspect. I think flying is kind of like sprinting. I think it's fairly high on stamina, but I'm not too worried about it, honestly. So we have that. What else do we need here? The fluid transposer, we just need a bucket, glass, copper, redstone reception coil, which I have no redstone on me right now. There we go. As you can see, we have quite a bit of redstone and quite a few other materials as well that I'm not going to really get into just because we don't need to. And there we go. So I think that's everything that we need. It is. So we're going to grab that. We're going to run it over. And I can't remember if this requires power or not, so I'm going to put this down first. 40, so it does require power. We're going to break this normally. Now, of course, you can break them normally, but if you have power in them, you are going to want to put them down uh, using the actual. Oops, let's come up here. If you do have power in a machine, you are going to want to pick it up with the wrench by shift right clicking, otherwise it will drop all of its power and you'll have to fill it back up. Granted, it is fairly cheap to fill them back up with power, especially using the steam dynamos from what I've seen. But this is, it's something that's fairly important, I would say. Now, I don't care about that too much. Actually, you know what? We're gonna take a quick look at the configuration. Now this has a few more inputs and outputs than normal. You actually have the ability to input a red, a yellow, a yellow, and a blue. Now, I don't see any yellow currently. I could be mistaken, but orange. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why it's doing that. I guess it thinks there's supposed to be two here. I guess maybe there are. It doesn't really appear that way to me, but anyways, basically what happens is you put your item in here, it then uses whatever liquid's in here and outputs the item here. So we don't want it to output an item, we want it to input items, or rather liquids, into the side. So if it's a liquid, it will automatically go to the tank if it can. Otherwise, if it's an item, it goes here. Now we want to make ourselves another one of those leadstone energy cells because of the fact that we want to get ourselves an actual working power setup here shortly. So we're going to get one of these. We also need 2 pieces of lead ore. And I think that was it. Let's quickly throw those. Our pulverizer. Furnace is doing fine. Now this, the induction smelter, this is also something we're going to work on while we're waiting to make ourselves some fluid ducts. Alright, now we're not worried about contents being seen. This is actually cheaper than making hardened glass variety. So we're just going to need copper, lead, so we actually need one more piece of lead ore. Typically it's nice to be able to see what you're looking at to make sure that you're, make sure of what kind of liquid you have going in it, if you have any crossing pipes or anything like that. Because of the fact that we're not worried about that, we don't have anything major crossing, it's not really a big deal if we just use the opaque version. Apparently we're out of power as well. So we'll convert this last one over. Now we're going to fill up our fluid transposer with power. That way we have enough power to actually do stuff once we're ready here. Throw that all in there. And let's make ourselves that frame really quickly so we have it. Running out of glass fairly quickly here, actually. So we're going to turn the rest of our sand into glass while we're waiting. And just because I'm really cheap, I'm just going to do it this way so we don't have to mess with our engines over here. It doesn't touch our setup at all. And there we go. Apparently I output to the side. It's not supposed to do that, but whatever. Oh, I see. It's this one. There we go. Just because it was outputting the yellow from the bottom. Alright, so we've dealt with that. We've filled this completely. We're going to turn it back to just waste the rest of this power on our magma crucible so it's filled, because otherwise this energy goes nowhere and it just disappears. So now what we need to do is make ourselves, oops, we gotta go back to the crafting table because we need to make the fluid ducts so we can transfer fluid from point A to point B, or rather from the crucible to we need to transfer the fluid from the crucible, which is here. I want this to be an orange. I'm gonna make sure this is a blue. There we go, so it's moving it right on over. As you can see, it's draining it all out, bringing it on over, and there we go. Now we're going to throw that in the top. Is that what we need to do? No. Apparently, I'm a little bit concerned. Apparently I'm a little bit, okay, never mind. Apparently that's no longer one of the steps you need. I apologize for that. Apparently there's a much cheaper recipe now, Electrum, which is, where is it? Electrum, which is silver and gold, so that's fairly easy to deal with. Yeah, I do apologize for that. That's actually a much nicer recipe than what I was expecting. The old recipe used to require something like 2 full buckets of melted redstone, or destabilized redstone, and you would then have to take the two. You then had to take those 2 buckets and put them into the cell, so it was fairly expensive. Although at the time you only had 1 cell. Now you have 3 cells, so I suppose that's why they changed the recipe. Which is honestly, I do like the fact that they've changed that. I just didn't realize that that was actually changed quite to the extent it was. But it's not really crap. Well, that's not good. Alright, I'll be back in a couple minutes once I clean this up, guys. Alright, guys, welcome back. Sorry about that. Apparently, we have some seriously messed up spawning in our base that I need to work on. Or I need to cover this over or something. I've been trying to keep this fairly safe, which is why I'm usually flying so they don't blow up, but sometimes, unfortunately, it happens. I also don't have any more spruce wood. I don't even think we have any. Do we have any? No, we do not. We don't even have any spruce saplings, so it's not even like I can grow any easily. Anyways, I'll fix this later. I'll officially fix it later. But for now, I think we're going to call this quits. We're actually just going to quickly wrap up making ourselves that energy cell. And then from there, I'll probably charge it up off camera and get this a little bit set up a little bit better from now on. I mess with this a little bit more, but for now, I think that's probably going to be it. So let's just quickly get this set up here. And there we go. Alright, so we've got ourselves our energy cell. We're going to put that down there. And just because I don't care if we lose the power in this one, we're just going to quickly do that. Switch it over, and we're going to plop. How much can this even hold? 400,000? It's about the same as this, so it's not all that much. So I think we'll probably do maybe 8 in each. I think that might be enough. Regardless, like I said, we're just going to fill it up and then we'll have it. Other than that, though, we are... Is this sided? Ooh. Oh, it's not a big deal. That's just to show how full it is. That makes sense. Alright, so basically, what we're going to do is I'm going to fill this up off camera. Again, thank you guys for watching. And watching my blunders and all the rest of that. So we've covered a decent amount of thermal expansion, though I'm sad to say we really didn't cover a whole lot this episode. Well, I guess that's not true. We did cover kind of 4 things. We covered the fluid ducts, we covered the magma crucible, the fluid transposer, and the energy cell, so that's not bad. For 25 minutes, that's not great, but I'm not really doing this as a tutorial, so take that how you will. But in any case, I think, like I said, we're going to call it quits here. That will be everything that we do for now, and I'll probably work a little bit more on thermal expansion as well as we're kind of getting a few other things ready for applied energistics, as we are pretty much ready to get that started. Now that we have ore processing, we can actually get in a good storage going with a way to actually automatically store all this crap so it's not all sitting out here all the time. So I'll probably prepare to do that for next time. And yeah, we'll see you guys then. As always, I've been Diego, and thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.